At my niece's 6th birthday party, I found a charge on my card for $3,842.20. Hey, Reddit. It wasn't a small mistake. It was the total cost of the bounce house, the catered cupcakes, the hired face painter, the balloon arch, and the photographer who took all those forced family smiles. When I asked what that charge meant, my sister said with the same careless smile she uses when she borrows things and never returns them, "We voted. You're paying for it." My parents backed her up. That night, I did 3 things that changed everything. I canceled my mother's extra card. I cut all the automatic payments I'd been making for the family. And I filed a formal dispute with the bank. I didn't plan to be dramatic. I was done being taken for granted. I'm Claire, and for as long as I can remember, I was the family's quiet accountant, the steady one who fixed things, paid things, and smoothed over other people's disasters. I never minded. At least I thought I didn't. I believed family was a cycle of give and take. But over the years, the cycle had become a one-way street, and I finally reached the curb. Hannah, my younger sister, is lovely in the way some people are: bright lights, instant attention, a voice that fills the room. But there's a leeching edge to her charm that I only saw later when she learned how to turn other people's generosity into her lifestyle. When our parents retired, their bank cards didn't fall into a drawer. They found their way onto my phone as an extra card for emergencies. An extra card became a convenience. Convenience became habit. I'd cover a phone bill here, a streaming subscription there, dinner for the family night. Over the years, it added up to significance, not just dollars. Entitlement. So, when the party notification pinged, I assumed the usual. Hannah overspent on a theme she found on Pinterest. I pulled up the bank app expecting a small charge and a quick apology. Instead, there it was. $3,842. Merchant Party Perfect Rentals. It felt like a punch. I walked through the backyard with my phone clutched like a paper in a storm. Kids were running through bubbles, balloons bobbed under the sun, and my niece, little Lily, was the center of it all, wearing a crown and being hugged by an aunt who had already bought another glossy life's worth of things she didn't need. "Hannah," I asked, voice then, "did you use my card for the party?" She grinned like I was late to a joke. "Oh, yeah. We voted. You make the most money, Claire. You never have time to spend it anyway." I remember the way my mother's eyes slid toward me. Not with apology, but like she'd been waiting for me to be responsible. "It's for Lily," she said. "Don't be dramatic." My skin felt suddenly foreign to me, as if I were an extra person in my own life. "You didn't ask me," I said. "It didn't feel necessary," Hannah replied. "Your family, you always say yes." That phrase, "you always say yes," was a truth I had let define me. That night, I went home early. I sat on my couch and let the silence of my apartment wrap around me. On the table was a small stack of bills I'd been meaning to deal with. Student loans, utility, autopay, the contributions I'd made to mom and dad's insurance. I opened the bank up again. The charge was pending, but my decision felt clear. I filed a dispute with the bank that night. Unauthorized merchant charge. The process on the bank site asked a few standard questions. I answered professionally. Where was I? Did I authorize this? Etc. It felt like a small justice, a digital finger pointing out the cost of a family's assumption. And then I did something else I'd never done before. I sat down and went through the list of all the automatic payments and shared cards that routed money to my parents and sometimes to Hannah. I canceled the family streaming account. I removed the extra cards tied to mom's name. I paused the recurring transfer that covered dad's phone plan. Each click took something away, and with every removal, my chest unclenched just a little. I wanted them to feel something more than the immediate inconvenience. I wanted them to feel the absence of the person who had willingly carried the weight of family for years. I wanted proof that the cycle was intentional and that it could be stopped. The next morning, my phone filled with frantic texts. "Claire, the card isn't working. Why did you cancel that? Hannah says you reported the charge for the party." They spun their worry into blame. The tone was immediate, as if I had committed an unthinkable crime by pointing out what was painfully obvious. They had treated me as the safe account, not as a person. When my mother finally called, she was sharp. "I can't believe you'd report family." "It was for Lily." I kept my voice quiet. "I agree it was for Lily, but you didn't ask me. You didn't tell me. You used my finances like a punchline." There was a pause, then the pleading, "We're family. Can't we talk about this?" I told her what I'd done and why. There was silence on the line. Not the stunned sort, but the slow, dawning silence of someone realizing reality has a cost. For the next few weeks, I heard nothing but absence. No birthday calls, no Sunday texts, no "how's your job?" messages. The house where I'd once been the one who fixed ovens, delivered casseroles, and took dinner to sick neighbors. They shut me out. And oddly, when the silence settled, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. In that peace, I began to see the pattern more clearly. Giving had not earned me respect. It had trained them to take. I remember the small occasions when they cheered Kyle's impulsive purchases and brushed off his mistakes. I remembered when I'd been asked to put my life on hold to bail out problems I didn't create. I remembered feeling invisible at the center of my own family. It wasn't the money that hurt. It was the message beneath it. You owe us your comfort, your security, your labor, and you can be dismissed when it suits us. I refused to let my finances purchase their sense of entitlement any longer. So, I sat with the silence. I didn't gloat when the bank reversed the charge. I didn't press the point. I simply stopped paying, not because I wanted to punish them, but because I finally started paying attention to what it cost me to be their designated cushion. A year later, the tables turned. The cuffs of their life that depended so heavily on the hands I kept stretching loosened. And when they finally came back hat in hand, it wasn't because they'd learned a lesson naturally. It was because consequences are patient and sometimes painfully direct. A year later, they showed up on my doorstep, frantic and apologetic. Not because they'd realized the wrong they'd done, but because the bills had come due, and suddenly I was the only lever left to pull. What they didn't know was I'd prepared for this. I had one calm demand, and it would teach them more than money ever could. It's been a year since that birthday party. A year since I canceled their cards, stopped the automatic payments, and let silence settle like dust between us. And in that year, something strange happened. My life got better. Without the monthly drain of helping, my savings grew. Without the constant guilt, I started sleeping again. And without their voices telling me I was too dramatic, I began to hear my own. Peace became addictive. But peace never lasts long when you're the only responsible one in a family full of takers. It started with a text from my mom. "Mom, we need to talk. It's urgent." My first thought, something was wrong. A health scare, maybe. But then another message came. "Mom, it's about the house. We might lose it." My heart sank. Not because of the house, but because I already knew what this conversation was really about. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, my phone rang. "Claire, please," Mom said, her voice cracking. "We're behind on the mortgage. Your father's retirement didn't stretch the way we thought. Hannah can't help right now." There it was. The real reason. I waited. Then softly she said it. "Can you lend us $10,000? Just until things get sorted." I closed my eyes. For a long time, I didn't say anything. Finally, I asked. "Why not ask Hannah?" "She's going through a rough patch," Mom said quickly. I could hear embarrassment in her voice. "She's well, she maxed her cards. She says she'll pay you back if you help us first." Of course, she did. I could picture it. My sister calling, crying, spinning a story about bad luck. And just one more chance. The same sister who'd smiled and said, "We voted. You're paying for it." I felt my chest tighten, but not with anger this time. With clarity. "Mom," I said quietly. "Do you remember what you told me that night at Lily's party?" She hesitated. "I don't." "What do you mean?" "You told me not to be dramatic. You said I could afford it. You treated $3,800 like pocket change and my respect like spare change." Her voice cracked. Claire, that's not fair. It's fair. I interrupted gently but firm. Because that moment showed me exactly what I was to this family. A safety net, not a person. There was silence on the line. Then she whispered, "We made mistakes." I nodded to myself. "You did, and mistakes have interest just like money." She tried again. "Please, honey, we'll pay you back. We just need a little help right now." I sighed. "Mom, I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not your lender either. I've helped this family in ways none of you ever acknowledged. You all taught me that love was supposed to come with a receipt." She started to cry softly. "Then what do we do?" I paused because this was the moment I could finally say what needed to be said. "Start by calling the bank," I said calmly. "Talk to them. Refinance if you can, sell the extra car you don't use, and tell Hannah to get a job instead of an excuse." She was quiet for a long time. Then, through her tears, she whispered, "You've changed." I smiled sadly. "No, Mom. I just stopped paying for my own mistreatment." A few weeks passed. No calls, no texts. But then one morning, there was a knock at my door. I opened it and there they were. Mom, Dad, and Hannah. Mom looked worn down. Dad's shoulders drooped. Hannah stood behind them, her usual smugness replaced by nervousness. I didn't say a word. I just stepped aside. They sat in my living room, quiet, uncomfortable. No one spoke for a while. Finally, Dad said, "Claire, we owe you an apology." He took a deep breath. "We should have treated you better. We shouldn't have taken your generosity for granted. You were right to stop helping us. It forced us to look at how dependent we'd become." Mom nodded, wiping her eyes. "And I'm sorry for laughing at you that night. It wasn't fair. I thought I was keeping peace, but I was protecting Hannah's irresponsibility." I looked at Hannah. She stared at the floor, then finally said, "I messed up, Claire, big time. I maxed everything. Lost my job. And I shouldn't have dragged you into it. I'm sorry." It wasn't dramatic or tearful. Just hired honesty and somehow that made it real. I leaned back in my chair, "You know," I said quietly, "I didn't cut you off because I hated you. I did it because I wanted to see if you'd ever value me without money attached. If you'd ever care without a balance sheet between us." Mom nodded slowly. "We see it now." "I hope you do," I said softly. "Because love isn't measured in who pays the bills. It's measured in who shows up when you stop paying." For the first time in years, I saw understanding in their faces. Not guilt, not defensiveness, just quiet realization. Before they left, Dad said, "We'll figure things out. We just wanted to say thank you for forcing us to face reality." I smiled. That's all I ever wanted. As they walked out, Hannah paused at the door. "Claire," she said softly. "Next month's Lily's 7th birthday. I'll handle it myself this time." I laughed lightly. "Good. Maybe this time we'll both enjoy it." A few weeks later, Mom texted a photo. It was Lily grinning, holding a homemade cake. No balloons, no hired clowns, no extravagant decor, just family smiling. Below it, Mom had written, simple, paid for, happy. "Thank you, Claire." I sat there staring at that message for a long time. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in that family for a long, long time. Respect. Money can buy a party, but it can't buy integrity. And sometimes cutting people off isn't cruel. It's the only way to teach them the cost of taking you for granted. Because when you stop paying for other people's comfort, you finally start investing in your own peace.